I'm Julianna Forlano. It was brought to my attention by the good folks over at Sandy Hook Promise that schools are now doing active shooter drills, complete with blood and sound effects for kids as young as 5. Joining me to discuss this absolute horror is Everytown's federal legal director, Rob Wilcox. This is literally one of the most powerful interviews I've ever done. Then we're going to follow that up with guest number 2, Dr. Mira Shah, who provides abortion care in New York and is a fellow with Physicians for Reproductive Health. Guess what we're going to talk with her about? That's right. As our Supreme Court, right this very second, is hearing arguments against one of the most restrictive anti-choice abortion regulations in the country, we will be speaking with Dr. Shah about the profound effects the law is already having on pregnant folk and on providers. Have you heard anyone else talking about the effect that this is having on the providers? They never talk about the providers, but we will here today. It is a great show. They are great guests, so strap in. Rob Wilcox of Everytown is up first. Rob Wilcox, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
It's such an important thing that's going on, and I don't feel like we've been hearing enough about trying to stop gun violence in our country since COVID has come upon us. But I got this email the other day by the folks at Sandy Hook Promise, which is right near where I live, that schools are now doing active shooter drills, complete with blood and gunshot sound effects for kids as young as 5 years old. As a trained psychotherapist, I am horrified by this. Could you talk a little bit about who is pushing for this? Why is this happening?
You should be horrified. You should be horrified that we haven't paid more attention to gun violence in this country, because we've been living through really 2 pandemics, the pandemic of COVID and the epidemic of gun violence. And you're right to be horrified about what you've heard about these drills, because it is in fact truly horrifying what we're putting our kids through, who are already under so much pressure and stress with negative influences around them. And the truth is there's a bit of history there. We haven't always had active shooter drills at our school. In fact, the number of schools that are doing these active shooter drills has doubled in recent history. This is really something quite modern. And right now, over 90% of schools are doing drills.
Do you believe 90% of schools? I'm about to take this. I suggest everyone watching this, take this interview and send it to your school and say, we're not into that. Let's talk about the kind of effects that these drills have on kids as young as 5 years old.
Look, the truth is we have these drills in place, but we don't really know a lot about them. That has been the problem, is that there is a $2.7 billion school safety industry that has pushed things like extreme drills that are active simulations. They're unannounced. They use fake blood. They use pellet guns without any real evidence that they're effective, and certainly no research into the harm they're doing. But what I can tell you from the research we've done is we see increased anxiety, increased depression, and reduced school performance, as well as anecdote after anecdote of students that are suffering the trauma from these drills, on top of the trauma they might see in their daily lives and the fear of a school shooting actually happen at their school.
Do you know who is behind this? You said there's there's a school safety almost industry that there's money behind. Where is that money coming from? Is it coming from our governments? Is it funded by like the NRA so that, we'll have safety drills and then we won't have to have gun control? Like what mechanisms are behind this?
I mean, look, schools are using their limited resources to pay for this drill curriculum, to pay to have these drills put in place without any evidence of their effectiveness. You know, what the schools need to be investing in is a positive school climate, sufficient mental health counselors, and making sure that the school community, especially parents, knows that they need to securely store their firearms. That's really the answer to stopping these school shooting tragedies is taking action and intervening before they happen, identifying who's at risk and who's at crisis, getting them mental health support, and making sure they don't have access to guns. Because here's one thing that stands out to me is that 80% of the guns used in these targeted school shootings are coming from the home of a family member or friend. So it's all about how we take responsibility for what's in our homes, rather than putting our kids through these extreme and completely unnecessary drills.
Are there groups? Is Everytown actually taking on these drills? Is it an important part of the action right now?
Look, it is, because we've taken a real comprehensive look to school safety, and we've tried to bring our advocacy from the ballot box down to the school board. And I know that can be contentious, but the truth is we need to have those conversations in a respectful and fact-driven way. And we can and should. And we should be asking questions about what type of drills are happening in our schools, right? As I said, 90% of schools are doing these drills. So all of us who are parents, including me, got to ask these questions. What are these drills like? What's being conducted? What student ages are being conducted? What trauma-informed services are part of it? Everytown, we have a set of recommendations. We know that most states require these drills. A lot of schools are doing them, but they should never be unannounced. They never should be simulations where you're actually pretending like there's a real shooter going through the school with fake blood and sounds and noises, gunshots, pellets. You should have trauma-informed services available for students so they understand what's happening and you can help them relieve that stress. And you need to be trauma-informed at the front end as well, right? The way you might talk to a elementary school students different than you talk to a middle schooler, different how you talk to a high schooler. But at the end of the day, none of these kids should be subjected to these extreme drills that are just adding to their stress and anxiety when we already know that they have so much on their plate.
Do you find that there's a bipartisan concern about these drills, or is it coming more from one side or the other? Unfortunately, we only have two sides now, so.
Look, I do think there's concern for student well-being across the board. And I think there needs to be some real research that's done, led by the Department of Education, that takes a hard look at the effect of these drills. The research that Everytown's done in partnership with Georgia Tech University, where we analyze social media, showed just a dramatic increase in fear, anxiety, depression that was long lasting as a result of these drills. The federal government needs to be doing that as well. They need to be paying for this type of research so we have a much better sense of not only do these drills actually benefit our kids, they work, but what's the harm that comes from them. And I think that is a step that we should be able to find some bipartisan consensus on, because it's trying to ask the question of what's best for our kids, and let's make sure we do right by them, which is hopefully something that all folks can agree on.
I can't believe 90% is the figure of who's doing these active shooter drills. This is just
it's wild, and it's nearly doubled in recent times, right? Like, this is a modern thing, this idea of lockdown active shooter drills, but truthfully, it's doubled in recent times. It's been the thing that people are turning to as how they can make themselves feel safe.
It makes me want to lock down my kid in my house and never let them out, because this is just fear mongering, and we have tons of fear mongering. It's like impossible to keep your kids from having anxiety and depression. And this is just one more imposed unnecessary. And I doubt if we look at whether this has actually helped. And has anyone, this question may be out of line, please correct me if it is, but has anyone come out of a school shooting or a mass shooting saying, thank God I had that drill. I knew exactly how to save my classroom mates, my teachers. Do we have studies, or do we even have any firsthand reports that these things are useful in any way?
That's a great question. That's literally the first question you think we should ask before putting in place these drills and practices. And the answer is no, we don't have that. There has been no research that's been done to show the effectiveness these drills might have. The second thing I'll say is a bit more anecdotal, and it's actually a bit scarier. And we know this is a scary and serious topic, but the truth is that most individuals who perpetrate targeted school violence, they're students. And so in many ways, when you go through these drills, when you have laid out exactly what will happen in the case of an active shooter, you're telling potentially the very person who might be perpetrating that act. And I say that with all seriousness, that's very concerning. And we've seen examples, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to highlight any particular incident, where that shooter has taken certain actions because they knew what was going to happen after the incident began. And that is
It seems
very
like teachers
serious.
should go through active shooter drills. Maybe teachers and staff, administrative staff, but not the children.
I think that's right. I mean, I think, the administrators and teachers who are there to do best by our kids, they should have information. That still should be trauma informed. I could tell you there was one drill in Indiana where they brought teachers into a room and shot them with pellet guns, leaving welts on their bodies. The National Education Association strongly condemned it because that's not a way that you bring teachers on board or prepare them. But that's how one school district decided was the appropriate way to address this issue.
As someone who works with victims of trauma, often childhood trauma, I use the word absolutely horrorized, and I'm personally traumatized, like secondary traumatization, just by listening to the fact that this goes on, and one just feels so powerless. I send. There's two things coming here. I send my daughter to school and they're talking about gun safety, but not in a way it's just like instilling terror. It wasn't an active drill, but it was a conversation about it that we had not had at home. For me, I think I should know as the parent what the school is going to be bringing up so I can prepare my own child for what's going to be happening, even if I don't have the power to stop it myself, or perhaps keep her home that day if I don't feel that that's in the best interest of my child. Is this a right that we could be fighting for?
That is one of our recommendations, that parents should be notified and provided information. There's no reason that any of us should be in the dark about what's happening to our kids at school. And I think we should all agree on that. And the truth is, while we should do away with some of the most harmful practices, unannounced drills, simulations that use fake blood and gunshots, what we need to do is really research what these drills are doing. Is there a way to do it effectively where you actually are imparting useful information without increasing the trauma that's befalling our kids? And that's something that we can see the Department of Education lead on by providing research dollars and guidance. And it's something that we as parents can take action at the local level, right? Like we can ask our school boards and our schools, what are the drills like? What is happening with them? And how are you ensuring that our kids in our district are remaining safe and not suffering extra trauma?
Back to your point about, the active shooter drills actually informing some of the actions of people, the shooters. I mean, my daughter is little. She comes home, whatever she sees, even if it's on TV or whatever, then she plays it. And for parents who try to keep their kids away from playing war games, this is a problem just on that level.
Yeah. And look, there really is no research that suggests that putting an elementary school kid through an unannounced drill that makes them believe that an active shooter situation is actually happening will do any good.
I want to go ahead.
No, but there's plenty of evidence that we're seeing anecdotally and in our social media research that is doing a lot of bad.
We're speaking with Rob Wilcox, Everytown for Gun Safety Federal Legal Director. Rob, just turning to some politics here, I want to get your take on the Biden administration and what he's doing in terms of gun control, gun safety, and where are the levers of power that we can push him to move forward a bit more than he already is on this issue.
The Biden-Harris administration ran as the strongest gun safety ticket ever, and they're governing like it. I can tell you that I'm seeing actions out of this administration that I've never seen before, earlier than I've ever seen before. This administration didn't wait to take action. They initiated themselves. Right in the beginning of this year, they started regulating these things called ghost guns, which is the fastest growing threat in this country. Gun parts you can buy online that have no serial number, so you can't be traced, and that you can acquire without a background check. The scariest thing is you can see the videos of people putting together a fully functional gun from these parts in under 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Another way that you can see kids get guns. But this administration, they took action right out the gate. We've also seen them take action on gun trafficking and to fund community violence intervention programs, which we know can work because they're actually trying to intervene in the community before violence happens. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm seeing so far from this administration makes me really optimistic in terms of seeing a president and vice president who are governing on the promises that they made during the campaign. We have a lot more work to do, and I'm excited to do it in partnership with this administration. And as you said, to keep celebrating the actions they take and offering additional ones so we can address all of these issues: school safety, suicide prevention, domestic violence, domestic terrorism, gun trafficking, interpersonal violence. There's a lot to do because the gun lobby's had a 40-year head start, but I believe this administration's up for it.
I'm so glad you were able to join me. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing to fight this fight. What would you suggest our viewers do who want to get involved and who want to just, help make sure that the agenda of safety and peace moves forward in our country?
Look, if these issues speak to you, school safety, active shooter drills, gun violence prevention, gun safety, then come work with me. Come work with us at Everytown for gun safety. We have 6 million supporters across the country, but we need more. We have grassroots chapters in every state that are taking these fights to the school board level and the state houses. And so if you want to get involved and you want the tools that will help you be an effective advocate at your school board, your state house, and Congress, please come join us at Everytown for Gun Safety and Moms Demand Action so that we can be in this fight together.
Thank you so much, Rob Wilcox, Everytown for Gun Safety, Federal Legal Director. Again, I do thank you for your time. I know you're busy fighting this good fight, so we'll hope to have you on again when we can celebrate some victories in the foreseeable future.
Thank you so much for having me and for making sure that we're having this important debate.
You're watching ACT TV. We'll be right back.